Past 6. Now, if you play the violin, or perhaps your kids do, if you're a lover of the strings, don't go anywhere. Rupert Guenther is travelling around the country. He's recorded an improvisational masterpiece conceptualising letters sent from the modern day to an 18th century Austrian musician. New Letters to Esterhazy is the name of the show, and there is an album. Rupert, welcome to Drive.
Hi Joe, thanks for having me in.
Is this a love letter to Joseph Haydn? Why have you been composing music and writing letters to him musically?
Look, the thing is, I actually recorded this for the ABC back in 2007 and I didn't have a clue what it was. And then afterwards I was sitting with it for a couple of months and it just crystallised what had taken place. And really what it was my way of kind of saying thank you. Because I'd been back to that culture. I'd lived and studied in Vienna quite a while, and I thought it rubbed off on me a bit. But it was really just a kind of a wave from 11,000 miles away, saying, "Hey, what you started, it's still going, and even though it sounds different now, it's this beautiful ideal for humanity, and here's what it sounds like."
So Haydn composed these works all those many, many years ago. He's influenced you, and this is through the passage of time and influence what you've created.
Correct.
When did you first pick up the fiddle?
Ooh, well, I'm showing my age here, but I'll say I was young. I was 7, and everyone in the family played. It was a big family, and everyone was musical, so it was inevitable that I would get on board, and I was given a violin and a teacher.
And there it began.
That was it. But I knew by the time I was about 12, that's what I was going to do.
Professionally speaking?
Yeah.
So you went on to study?
Yeah, I went on, did a degree in Melbourne at the Victorian College of the Arts, and then went over to Europe and did more study and worked there.
And played with orchestras in Austria?
Played with the operas and orchestras in Vienna, yeah.
There is nothing better than sitting in the orchestra pit with all the musicians around you. Do you know what I used to do when I was a kid? We were terribly naughty. We used to undo the B on the clarinet and then inevitably drop it and then crawl around on the floor while the orchestra was waiting to put the clarinet back together. You weren't that silly, were you?
That's very innovative. No, there's not much you can do to a violin, really. Otherwise it falls apart like that, but not so easy to put back together.
Now, this concept gave you a lot of freedom to explore a huge range of emotions and feelings. What were the key things that you wanted to dive into with this work?
Well, as I said, because I created it as an improvisation in the studio, the way the muse works is it just comes out how it comes out. But it's, I think like anything, like a conversation, approached with sincerity and a lot of heart, and you're willing just to go places and find out. That's kind of the spirit that I conceived these pieces in, and then since then it's just continued to evolve.
It's 6:15 on ABC Radio Perth. Rupert Guenther is in the studio. He does have his violin with us. I think he maybe will even play something for us in a moment. So you worked with Classic FM, and are you saying you were improvising while creating this?
Well, the whole. My genre of work since 2002 has been only improvised performance.
Which we think more often of in the realm of jazz rather than classical music. Yeah. How did you end up there?
I just got really restless and I wanted to start making my own music, and there was some circuitous events that threw me into the pool. And I realised that I could do it on my violin in all the beautiful classical languages. I didn't have to do jazz. I had some jazz lessons from this wacky, fantastic guy, but it's another story for another time.
We've got 15 minutes, Rupert.
And I realised that I wasn't really into jazz that much, but I could improvise now, and I could use all those beautiful classical sounds and just tell my own stories. It's really storytelling.
Do you ever fall back into familiar tropes? It can't be totally improvised.
It's improvised in the telling of the story, but what I'm telling is very, very specific. So sometimes I'll just play like I did the ABC for this. Other times I'll research, stuff about dinosaurs and history, and I'll create a big show like I'm doing at the museum, WA Museum soon. So it comes from both ways. Sometimes it's completely spontaneous, and other times it's very researched, and then I create that dinosaur magic, you know.
I want to hear more about this dinosaur magic.
Well, we've got it was actually the last show. We've got 4 concerts at Boola Bardip this year, and the first one was Cosmology, which was this journey into outer space with huge visuals of astrophotography and the music and my narration of how small we are. Second one was the dinosaur bone story. That was really actually about the story of the whole planet evolving, that we think it looked like this always. Well, it didn't, and it won't. And the third one is the Egyptian one. It's called Music from Inside the Pyramids, and it coincides with the big blockbuster Egypt exhibition. So it's really evocative of those sort of times, and I use a lot of those Middle Eastern tonalities so that it's got that lovely Egyptian vibe to it. But I don't have to walk like an Egyptian to do it.
Rupert, the performance for New Letters to Esterhazy, so you speak as well as playing?
No, for New Letters to Esterhazy, it's purely a classical recital.
Okay. And that's a Government House?
That's a Government House Ballroom. There's this beautiful room in Perth.
Acoustics
are magnifique.
Très bien.
Yeah. So, and then there's New Letters to Esterhazy, which is this 5-movement sonata, this huge sonata, and each of those movements is an imaginary letter. So it's all about the ideals. It's the same from the ancient Greeks as Haydn had: hope, virtues, healing, redemption, doubt, despair, the whole journey. So yeah, and then there's 3 new pieces which are much more recent. One's based on Japanese shakuhachi flute music, one's based on Arabic music, and one's just the story of the Australian desert.
Rupert, you're quite the Renaissance man. It sounds like you know everything about everything.
I don't.
Or inspired by everything.
I'm just very cheeky, and I just try stuff out. No, really, I love storytelling, I love history, and I love culture, and so this is just a lovely playground for all of that, really.
Okay, can you lean down and pick up your violin and please play something for us? What are you going to play, Rupert?
I'm going to play you a bit from the upcoming recital. So this is part of New Letters to Esterhazy in the spirit of what it's going to be. It's as much as I can tell you because it is improvised, but the stories are quite specific, and it really does reach back into those ideals that Haydn brought into the world.
That was beautiful. Where did it take you?
To me, a lot of this music is about hope. Not I hope we get a new Prime Minister or we hope we get a new car. It's hope for humanity. I think it's about reminding people of the great ideals.
I think Joseph Haydn would have loved it.
Yeah, I hope so.
Rupert, thank you so much for coming in. And if you want to go and see new Letters to Esterhazy, Rupert will be at Government House. When will you be there? It's part of a world premiere national tour. Do you know the date?
Yeah, it's the first one. It kicks off on Friday the 30th of June at 7 o'clock in the Government House Ballroom.
Fantastic. Thank you again, Rupert.
Yeah, thanks, Jo. Thanks
To
for
the
having me.
person who said, have I logged onto ABC Classic FM by mistake? No, you haven't. We are just bringing all kinds of musical tastes to you on Drive now. We're going to go to the Beatles.